Welcome. This is going to be super fun for me because we actually don't really know each other. We just met backstage. I don't know how we got here to these two chairs, to this situation, but
I'm happy about it.
Here we are. I'm very happy too. It's going to be fun. I have some questions that I thought up. The biggest question, of course, I've been wanting to ask: how did you write "sexy" back? Did it just?
That's a good question.
Sorry, that's not. But I saw that. Okay.
No, I'm comfortable answering anything.
You know what?
Seriously.
Your agents and managers said they'd rather not say how you wrote "sexy."
They don't want me giving away my secrets.
But how did we? You started when you were 16 in computers. I started at 16 doing stand-up comedy, and yet we're now on stage somewhere, talking to each other, and just finding out.
Isn't that weird how that happens?
It's kind of fun.
Strange.
But I mean, how did that? Did you? Because I've read a zillion things about you, and like, I don't want to dwell on the past, of course, but
that scares me that you've read a zillion things about me.
Well, that's the way. Well, thanks to Facebook, you can read a lot of things about a lot of people. But you started. You were a hacker, right? Would you?
Yeah.
Are you comfortable by saying that?
I mean, I wouldn't characterize it that way.
No.
I would. I was a member of an elite underground group of cyber criminals.
Now, what was
Some
the
of
advantage?
those people haunt me to this day.
Yeah. I had a weird friend in high school that would do weird, like I mean, you're younger than me, but were you on Prodigy, AOL? Where were you? They were jokes.
That was. So if you were a member of the computer underground, there was like a hierarchy. I was on the bottom of that hierarchy. I was like the guy who was on like the conference calls going like, please give me an exploit. Come on, tell me how it works, please.
Come on, just tell me.
And so, yeah, but I would never be caught dead on AOL. That would have been social suicide in my elite, amongst my elite cyber criminal
You just
buddies.
wanted a black screen with a blinking cursor, and that's how you love that type of stuff.
Yes.
You don't want a swooshing triangle with fun graphics.
I wanted the thrill of breaking into a machine and getting that pound sign to appear, that root. Look.
And did you have modems and phone lines and why?
I ran a BBS. Yeah.
Yeah.
I ran a BBS, a bulletin board system.
Yeah, that's what bulletin board system.
Yeah, people could die.
They used to scare me. They used to scare me growing up.
You know what mine was called?
No.
Realm of Darkness.
Of course it was. Of course it was. And what did you talk about? Did you talk about like King's Quest cheats on there? What did you talk about? Like video games?
I mean, it was all Dungeons and Dragons, Satanism.
Yes.
The usual.
The usual, yeah. Satanism, always a good way to wake up in the morning.
I had another bulletin board after that one. The much more successful, actually. I decided that if you were calling from the United States, you really should not be allowed to call my bulletin board because all the elite hackers were in, these, former Soviet bloc countries whose names I can't pronounce, but that's where the elite hackers come from. So I said, I want those guys. So I set the bulletin board up in such a way that you couldn't call in unless you came from one of these very weird country codes that corresponds with like Azerbaijan or Kazakhstan or Estonia or something.
And on your bulletin board, you would talk about, hey, I just hacked into this.
Oh, no. This bulletin board, we didn't even talk. We just shared code. This was called Lucid Nightmare.
Wow. Yeah. So, all right, this is insane. So you would go on, blinking cursor, like Yannick from wherever he's from, Sweden or something, would go, just send you a program.
No, those guys were too friendly and nice. Have you ever met Swedish people? They're like the nicest people in the world.
They really are cool, yeah.
No,
you don't play with
none of those guys. None of those guys.
You want mean Russian dudes?
I'm talking scary people.
With thick accents.
Well, you couldn't hear them. You could just chat with them.
Oh, that scares me more. Yeah, that scares me more. And so how did you... did you get into it? Did your dad get into it? Did you have a nerd friend in high school? Because this is all high school, right?
Oh, see, it was quite the opposite. My dad did everything he possibly could to stop it.
Really?
Oh, he knew, yeah.
But how did you afford all this equipment? Did your dad buy it for you? He must have had
but
the
back
home computer.
then it wasn't that expensive.
He made you.
I had an old Atari 800. That's how I got started with the modem with the acoustic coupler, and then later I had a 286 PC. And that was when things got really scary. And the way you know your parents your kid is screwing up, normally their eyes are all red, they're coming home stoned, you can tell.
Yeah. Or they're breaking into Russian banks from the basement.
You're staying up until 6 in the morning, right? Like hacking all night long, bleary-eyed, don't go to school the next day. And they're like, he's doing something weird.
Yeah. Something's wrong with Sean. He's not, yeah, he doesn't want to go to the zoo today. So then you ended up just like with all these different things and you started just hacking. Did you think that you were going to make money off it? Or was it just for the interest of it, the fun of it?
Hacking or starting companies?
Hacking.
Hacking, yeah. No, I mean, I was considered like a gray hat, so I would do bad things.
People had different colored hats?
Oh yeah, different colored hats. Yeah, you can actually walk into a hacking store. They put the hats up on the left, and you pick one.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how you get your identity.
Yeah.
Or like masks too, hats and no.
No, I was just saying, like,
But
I had a Mickey
there's
Mouse
a
hat.
white hat. A white hat is a good hacker who's not really even a hacker in that sense of the word. They are a computer security professional. Then there's a gray hat and a black hat, and they are sort of mischief makers. And the gray hats are the kind of mischief makers who think they're really doing good, but they're not. You know, you learn that when the FBI shows up at your doorstep.
Again, we had different childhoods.
The black
we
hats. The black hats, they're the ones who you want to watch out for. They're the malicious hackers who are there to destroy. I just wanted to
For
help.
the fun of destroying?
For the fun of destroying. They're really, and I knew some of those guys, and they were sociopaths. That was my first introduction to sociopaths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You actually dealt with and had conversations with sociopaths.
And it's a weird thing, yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. It's not fun, but you know, I've been to a few parties.
Are these,
I mean,
is,
you gotta
this
get.
in? Is this in?
Yeah,
Are we on topic?
Yeah, we're on topic over here. I was going to ask you, 5 1/4 discs or 3 1/2? Oh God. You don't have to answer that. I'm asking you the tough questions.
Are you asking me about my penis size?
Yeah, that's coming. Question number 9 is that. I'm going to close on that, but I'm
I just
assuming
met you. We just
That's right.
met.
Again, it's 5 1/4 or 3 1/2. That's what it, but it's all right. We'll wait for that. But I had because I was saying when I grew up, I had these 5 1/4s, and you would get these video games and like Heroes Quest or King's Quest or Space Quest. And I don't know if you remember this. You get like 12 discs, and that would you put them in there, and that was, and then 3 1/4 was like hard, and it was like indestructible. These are the new cool little 3, and I could open it up, and a lot of kids in school couldn't even open it up. That was my trick.
So
Whereas you're talking to a guy.
So the 5 1/4s, the 5 1/2s were floppy. The 3 1/4s were hard.
Yes.
Got it.
That's the opposite. Yeah. Again, I'm going to get rid of that last question. What did you learn from starting so early, and what have you learned from your failures? Because I mean, the failures is kind of the only way you really learn, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the correct way to ask the question, because I usually get asked the question, you know, how did you succeed? And I really don't feel like I've succeeded. I feel like I've sort of failed systematically. At least in terms of my own goals and you know what I set out to do, but then somehow failure has kind of transformed into some weird kind of success that I wasn't really expecting. Yeah. So what was the question? I'm sorry, I'm just being narcissistic.
No, you're not. No, what have you learned from your failures? I mean, because I mean, I don't know if that's what people want to know, but I mean, I know from being a comedian that you know, you can tell jokes and be funny for an hour, but once you get your first joke that doesn't work, that's where you learn how to craft a joke. You go, wait, why didn't that work? How could I make it work? And why, you know, should I try that joke again? Like, why did they not laugh, but they laughed at everything else?
Do they hate me now?
Yeah, exactly. And then your confidence is shot, and it's like, you hear that in any sports thing you read about. Any boxer will say, until you get knocked down, that's how you show your character. Can you get back up? And can you win the fight? So, I mean, talk about some of your knockdowns. I mean, did you have any projects that flopped that you thought were going to be huge?
It's always been kind of bittersweet, and it's always been a little bit ambiguous with me. So, I mean, Napster wasn't a commercial success. Napster actually left everybody deeply in debt and left everyone actually with personal liability and huge lawsuits. And there was a period of time where I was actually quite afraid that if I ever made any money, it would be an incentive for the record labels to resume litigation against me personally. So I lived under this dark cloud after Napster. And the whole thing ended so kind of ignominiously for me because, I had these emails that I'd written, just a few emails here and there. And we all had emails and we all said things we shouldn't have said, but mine were really bad. Mine were
Yours are examples
Mine
for what
were,
not to
yeah,
write.
mine were when your words are blown up like in huge text like bigger than us actually on a gigantic screen in a courtroom.
86-point font. Yeah.
275. Yeah, crazy.
Courier. So it looks like a giant typewriter.
Exactly. You like fonts.
I like wingdings.
You want to talk
I
about
think wingdings is just so useful. I can't even tell you. That was the best one yet. So useful to me.
So Napster was really weird, and when you've had that kind of cultural impact so quickly, because the whole thing.
For those of you who don't know, Sean was one of the creators of Napster. Just so if people were streaming on the web, sure they know who you are, but just in case you don't know, he was one of the creators, Sean, and another Sean as well.
That's
you ever think of calling yourself Sean and Sean?
Like a band name?
Yeah, like a boy band.
Like we should have called Napster Sean and Sean.
Sean and Sean both had Bieber haircuts.
Right. Like the brothers Sean.
Brother Sean, yeah, wear matching
Sean
Juicy Couture outfits.
Sean and Sons.
Sean and Sons is good, yeah. Well, think about it.
We considered these options.
So Napster came out, and how did you get money from Napster?
No, well, it left me pretty much bankrupt, and with this huge shadow that I had to sort of deal with, this penumbral shadow of success, and yet
because no one wants to be, no one wants to touch you anymore. No one wants to be in business with you.
No one, and the bubble had burst. So Napster had been sued out of existence. The company failed. At that stage in my life, I could have easily been like a one-hit wonder and kind of drifted off into obscurity. And I wanted to do something that was a consumer product as my next company, but nobody would fund consumer. There was absolutely no interest. Consumer internet was the redheaded stepchild of the internet at that point. Now it's all the rage, and that's all the VCs want to fund is consumer internet. But this is 2002 timeframe. It changed with the PayPal IPO in 2002. But meanwhile, I'd been raising money for 1.5 years unsuccessfully, sleeping on couches. Like I had set up a set of rules for myself about how long I would freeload off of any one individual.
What was the time limit? Do you remember?
It was 2 weeks, but I would stretch that to a week by mowing their lawn. And
yeah. Hey, I made you guys mac and cheese, so can I stay an extra week? Yeah, that's
with
nice.
With truffles.
Yeah, right. We didn't have money for truffles back then. But then you get in. So you get into like angel investing. Is that what happens? I mean, how does a kid from Virginia, or do you have to live in San Francisco? Do you have to live in New York City? Is there a certain area you have to live in?
It's a lot easier if you live in the San Francisco Bay Area because that's where the bulk of the money is consolidated. I think you can start an internet company from anywhere. I mean, a great example of this is one of the companies I'm closely involved with now called Spotify, which is in Stockholm.
Spotify is it coming to the U.S.?
It is coming, yeah.
It is coming, because this is a huge deal.
It is coming.
It's giant overseas, and it's just basically streaming music, where you get to just give your friends playlists and stuff like that, and it's all legally done.
Oh, it's way better than that.
Oh yeah, well please
it's really cool.
Indulge.
It's really, really, really cool. It's the realization of the dream that Fanny and I had with Napster. We had all these product designs at Napster that we never got to implement, they never saw the light of day because we were dealing with this lawsuit, and the lawsuit was actually forced us to remove things from the product. So it was one of the only products in the world that just from the day it launched, it was really cool, and then it went backwards. So we had all these ideas about music sharing. It was never supposed to be just search and retrieval and download. It was supposed to be about massive, large-scale sharing of music between people.
Are you a music fan?
Crazy about music, yeah.
Yeah, you just like listening to it,
yeah,
and playing it. You don't perform it.
I pretend to play it from time to time.
Do you? What instruments do you play?
No, I don't really play any instruments. I pretend to play them, like air guitar.
Air guitar is pretty good.
The crux of the thing with Spotify is that you can see all of your friends on Facebook, and you can see their entire music collections. And then you can even in coming versions see like what they're listening to at this exact moment, and it's that element of live and seeing what your friends are listening to, seeing the last 100 songs they've listened to. That's really, really powerful and enables it makes music viral.
It's a little embarrassing too, isn't it? Sometimes it is for my playlist. I mean,
yeah.
You see, oh my gosh, you're listening to Wham, Barbra Streisand,
these-
then
yeah, yeah,
Metallica.
exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
yeah, I go from Metallica to Barbra Streisand, sure.
Well, you can hide a playlist. You don't have to, you know.
Show them everything, okay.
But
yeah.
I'm not ashamed of my musical tastes.
Oh, sometimes I am. I have a lot of AM Gold yacht rock stuff. It's pretty good. I mean, I guess I'm not really ashamed, but I think it's fun. It's fun to see other people's. Then I can get inspired by other people and go like, oh, you think that's cool?
Or laugh at them. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
Or laugh at them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Laugh and go, oh my gosh, you like that cheesy song? So do I. I can sing word for word the whole album. Yeah. That's kind of fun. But I mean, so why hasn't it come to the United States, or because of rights issues, labels?
It's an ongoing licensing conversation. What we're trying to do is, I don't think it's radical. To me, it seems like almost like sort of obvious, having used it and having thought about it for a long time prior to these guys creating it and making it work.
Describe what would you do on Spotify? You log in.
You log in. So this is the cool part. There's a sort of free tier of service so anybody can download the client without putting in a credit card, and instantly they have access to all the world's music at their fingertips. Everything. You can search for whatever you want. Instantly it pops up. You double click on it, it instantly starts streaming. There's no download times.
How is that possible?
It's
for free?
Just amazing technology. So then the way the company monetizes is that we get the user invested in music. We get them excited about music. They build playlists. Typical playlist has 22 songs on it. Typical user has, over 10 playlists. So they start to accumulate this library of music. So you can't use iTunes to build a library of music until you've bought the songs. Here, you get to build this vast library of music. You get the songs stuck in your head. It's annoying you. You want them on the road with you. You want them on your iPod. You want to burn them to CD. You want to stream it to your iPhone. That's the point where we monetize. So once you've built your collection, then we start pushing you, upgrade this playlist, take it with you, sync this playlist to your iPod, burn this playlist to CD.
Interesting.
And then we charge you.
So it's free streaming, but if you want to buy it for your
for
your Zune.
If you want portability, mobility, and access, then you buy it.
Just a Zune joke, sorry.
Those don't usually work out.
No, they don't. But there's some kid at home laughing, holding a Zune. Going, that's pretty funny. So you think Steve Jobs' new iCloud thing? This is not what that is. You think it's
no, totally. I mean, iCloud is like a feature. It should be. It's just not that significant. All you really do is take your music and upload it to this cloud, and then it's there. I mean, I don't know why anybody would do that.
That's a good thing there.
And they charge you for it. That's even weirder to me.
And they charge you for just doing that. Yeah, because you.
I can already do that.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Have you seen Turntable.fm?
That's cool. That's cool.
That's a cool new thing. I just got into that recently.
I like those little bobbleheads.
Yeah. It's a cool new thing, and I don't know. I don't know if it's legal. I don't know how long it'll last, but it's out there now.
I think it might not be legal.
Okay, it's not legal. Like I said, I've never used it, and just stay away from that. It's awful. It's an awful thing. Let's talk a little bit about Facebook, because you helped make Facebook what it is today. Is Facebook it? I personally don't think Facebook is the it. I don't think it's the end game. I think they're going to invent something like a VCR where you don't even realize that you're using it. You know, a VCR, when it first came out, you're like, I'm renting movies, I'm taping movies, I'm using it to turn my analog TV set into a digital. Look, I can use a remote control and flip channels. That's when it first came out, and you go, no, you're using a VCR. That's all you're doing. But you don't realize that. You just think like, hey, look, I'm just doing this. I'm getting all my movies from this thing. I'm taping all my shows. I'm changing my schedule of my life because I'm taping shows. So your life is now changing because of the VCR. And you don't think about that. You just think that, oh, everyone's got one.
Yeah, you know what? That's a pretty good description of where you want to be with any product. You actually don't really want people thinking your product is cool. You don't want people using your product because it's cool, because then you're a fad. What you want is people using your product because it's a part of their life and they can't stop using it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's going to be a box hooked into somewhere where it's the remote control TV is your phone. Is that how you hold a phone? Yeah, like a giant phone, but it's also that, but also you can have a conversation about the TV show you're watching, and also check your bills, pay your bills, and just get everything done with one bleep blorp.
Yes.
Right?
I would, to your point, is Facebook the end game? It's never the end game. Facebook has now become a platform upon which all kinds of applications are being built, and it's definitely not. You know, I would be incredibly presumptuous and self-serving of me to believe that Facebook was the end of history.
Yeah, I think it's going to evolve, and I think it's going to inspire.
The only way it could possibly be the end of history is if you know, it somehow becomes in some sort of artificial superintelligence that takes over the world. But short of that, it's not the end game.
That could happen too. Where do you think MySpace went wrong?
Where did MySpace go wrong? Failure to execute the product development. They weren't successful in iterating and evolving the product quickly enough. The product was basically this junk heap of bad design that persisted for many years, and they never. There was a period of time where if they had just copied Facebook rapidly, I think they would have been Facebook. But
Because they were giant, MySpace.
The network effects, the scale effects were enormous. There was so much power there.
Do you think college helped? Like, I feel like Facebook is more of a personal thing where a lot of people heard about it through their college going
Well, we entered the market. We entered the market through college, and the reason we went in through college was because MySpace users were generally, college kids were generally not MySpace users. College kids were generally not Friendster users. It was this completely open market, and it was a real long shot. I mean, nobody actually believed outside of us, 3 or 4 people in Palo Alto, that you could enter the market through this niche market and then gradually through this kind of carefully calculated war against all the other networks, become the one network to rule them all.
Would you say
Was that a Lord of the Rings reference?
Yes, it was. It's actually, I have a poster of it over my bed.
Along with your Dungeons and Dragons poster.
And an official Harry Potter wand.
Good.
What I was going to say was, I forget. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you about, would you consider yourself a technology person?
It's a good question. I started as a technology person, so I did have some kind of interest in technology, but I've always been much more interested in building great products than in building technology. You know, the technology thing for me has always been kind of like this somewhat tedious, extremely difficult execution phase of the business where you actually have to do stuff and it's hard and you have to hire people and you have to write code, and I'm much more interested in building great product experiences, whether it's in music or social media or whatever.
Did you always care about money? Do you care about money?
Don't really care about money. Not much.
I've never cared about money either,
Yeah.
to be honest. But can I borrow $1 million? Because I don't care. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't really care.
We can talk about that.
All right, good, yeah. And by borrow, I mean just give it. That's what I really mean.
What do you want to do with it? You want to start a tech company?
Yeah.
I am a VC.
Now, what does that mean?
I haven't figured that out yet.
Okay. But I mean, are you into just starting tech companies? Because I definitely have ideas. I would love to sit down and talk about ideas. Of course, they're crazy, but who knows is good. Oh, are we? Okay, yeah. Oh, I want to remind everybody to tweet questions and hashtag NExTWORK, NExTWORK. Not you guys here. You're right here. You don't need to tweet. But people at home who are watching can tweet some questions. Do you have a phone with apps? Do you use? Can I see your phone?
You really want to see my phone?
Yeah, I want to see what apps you have on your phone. I'd love to see that.
So, you asked me, am I a tech guy? I'm not like one of these early adopters that's sort of like, it's annoying because I'm on the board to my entrepreneurs, because I'm on the boards of a bunch of companies that build iPhone apps, but I don't actually use an iPhone. I just crank through huge amounts of email. I'm kind of behind the times, actually.
Well, let me see what apps you have on your phone, and then I'll tell you.
Let me see if I can find it.
I mean, do you have Angry Birds?
This is my hold on a second. Here, I dropped it. All right, here you go.
This is. You're getting 4 bars in New York City. That's pretty awesome.
It's amazing.
How the hell did you do that? How did you do that?
This is the guy I designed
That's
myself.
unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah, so you have a few apps on here.
Yeah.
You have 3 minutes remaining to your battery life.
This is analog, baby.
Oh my God, is that right?
Yeah, you want to keep this?
Yeah, it's probably good for your health now.
My gift from media.
So you don't use you don't have an iPhone. You use a BlackBerry.
You know, I do carry an iPhone, but mostly for music. I'm not Hipstamatic really annoys me.
Hipstamatic.
Hipstamatic, yeah. It's like, why does everything need to have that sepia tone behind it?
Because people like that. They like putting on mustaches and old cowboy hats. And doing that, you know, and getting some, cotton candy and having fun, I guess.
Right.
It's just fun. That's what I think it's fun. Like I like about apps is that they're 99 cents, number one. If they're free, that's even better.
Do you work for Apple?
Yes, I do. My name is Todd Jobs. I'm Steve's illegitimate son. No, I don't know. I mean, but apps. I guess people have apps on Droid phones as well. You know, I just think it's almost. I think weirdly, I don't know, would you know anything about game consoles? Would you care about game consoles?
I had a huge problem when I was younger. When I was 16, I had a huge problem with gaming to the point where it was taking over my life. And I had all of these aspirations. You know, I wanted to become a better super hacker and, break into more systems more regularly. I wanted to rise in the ranks of my, elite underground community of cyber criminals. I needed status from them, and gaming was holding me back.
What would be the game of choice?
Then when I realized, I mean, we're going way back here to
2001.
The first,
way back.
No, 96,
You were 12.
95, the original Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, the first Doom. I mean, that was crack for me back then.
Yeah.
So I made the decision, cold turkey, no games, have not played a game. I have not played a game in at least 14 years.
Really?
Yeah. No Angry Birds.
No Angry Birds, nothing.
I won't touch it. My fiance was really into Plants vs. Zombies. So I had to suffer through that for a while, a few weeks of that while we're on the plane.
Do you think it's a waste of brain energy, or what do you feel like? What do you do to have fun? Do you need to relax? Do you think that?
Well, I have an extremely addictive personality, so I had to find something to replace the gaming, which was boozing and whoring. No, just kidding.
I'm going to cross that question off too. But I mean,
something had to fill the void.
Do you drink to relax, or do you listen to music to relax? Do you have
hard drugs, only hard drugs.
Hard drugs only. Yeah, of course that. Yeah, but
if you can't mainline it, it's not worth doing.
But once that's out of your system, seriously though, what your brain is always moving, it's always thinking.
Yes.
Don't you ever want to just zone out? Do you think meditation? Do you do any of that stuff? I know you're into tea.
Where'd you read that?
Dude, I know everything about you.
I am into
you are into tea, right?
Wait, are you one? Never mind.
Yeah, I work for the tea company.
So
I'm from Snapple.
I am
How are you?
I actually have my own.
I'm the lady from Snapple commercials. I've got a lot of work done.
I have my own. Whatever we're doing right now, they're not liking it because it says move to Q&A.
No, they're fine. They're liking it. They're liking it. People want to know. I mean, what do you do? What do you do to relax?
What do I do to relax? Well,
you sit down. You have tea. What is the best tea that you have? Where do you get it from?
I blend my own tea. Actually,
this is very interesting because humans don't do this.
Right.
You get a Tetley bag and you put it in a cup of hot water, and you sit back and that's it. You blend your own tea.
I blend my own tea.
So what does that mean? Do you cut your own bark and grow your own herbs and flowers?
Tea is a leaf, actually.
Well, sometimes. It's also a mushroom as well. Up to you. Up to you. You can drink whatever tea you like to drink.
I mean, if you really want to know, I take Indian Assam, which is cut and ground up into these little pellets. Looks like gerbil food or bird food or something. Then I take a Keemum tea from China, which is a very malty kind of classic English breakfast ingredient, and I blend those together, and then I throw in the secret sauce.
And you can't say what that is.
I'll show you later if you come by my place.
All right, dude, I'll do it. I'll
give you a sip.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's take a little some questions. If anyone has any questions for me or Sean, yes, sir. We have a microphone coming to you in case you want to break into song. Up to you.
All right. A 1, 2, 3, 4. Question. Back in the early part of the 2000, that decade, when you and Sean were going through the lawsuits with the record industry, whatever, did you ever get a phone call from Steve Jobs? Because it seems to me that the success of Apple was largely due in part to the success of Napster.
I agree. And I like the way you think. And I think what you might be saying is that I'm owed at least a few cents per iPod sold. And so if you want to take that up with Steve on my behalf, I would be happy. And I'll give you a cut.
Yeah. Well, let's just say if it wasn't for this interview and me, this would never have happened. So cut me in as well. Let's not bullshit around the issue. Yes, sure, over here.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Tim Wu. I was on the 2 panels ago or something. I have a question about Facebook, which you were talking about how Facebook came to a market dominated by an existing scaled-up company. What is your intuition as a VC as to when a company is going to be able to take on another company that already has massive amounts of scale? Did you have some intuition that MySpace was weak, or I just wonder if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, you didn't need intuition to know that MySpace was weak. You know, it was totally dominated by these kind of. You ever heard of the MySpace angles? Anyway, that's where you take pictures of yourself from funny angles to try to make yourself look cool, and the whole thing was like fraudulent in the sense that all of these users were not representing themselves honestly. They were to put it nicely, they were putting their best foot forward, and some of them were existing in a complete fantasy world of their own construction. So there was this.
Were you paying attention to them at the time, or just doing your own thing?
I was, trolling for women on MySpace all day long, trying to get laid. I mean, that's what everybody was doing.
By the way, I'm sorry I never got back to you. Turns out I'm not an 18-year-old girl. I apologize.
Yes. Yeah.
But you just kind of.
I just assumed that you were like a federal agent.
Well, I'm still not going to admit to that.
This talk is not helping my reputation.
You can't help your reputation, buddy. So let me tell you something right now. So that's a good question, though. So it's not like you went and saw something had a hole, it was weak, and you go like, let's destroy that company.
Well, I was interested in this problem of identity. I'm going to make the talk boring again now. I really cared about trying to. There was no identity layer for the internet. There was no verifiable, accountable, persistent identity that could follow you from place to place. That you maintained and curated in an accurate way, and MySpace wasn't doing that. And until you establish that identity layer for the internet, a lot of things aren't really possible. You don't have trust, you don't have accountability. Certain transactions can't take place between people, like selling someone your fish on Farmville. That couldn't happen. You needed identity to enable all of this. All of these applications, and MySpace wasn't providing that. So the vision, in some sense, Facebook and MySpace were very similar, but the vision driving both of those companies was coming from a totally different place.
MySpace is almost more virtual reality than a real reality, where Facebook is real. Like I remember playing the Sims game. Yeah, it's a great game, but you missed out on. And there's a part of the game where you can make your character work out on a treadmill. And I remember I was making my character work out, and I was eating a pizza. And I go, the hell I should be working out. This is insane. I was really proud of myself. I go, oh, this guy's gonna work his butt off. This is fantastic. Let's do another 5 minutes. This guy ought to work his, and I go, wait, what am I doing? And I was just getting fat playing Sims, but it was fun. But I know what you're saying. It's like now Facebook has actually become people's lives. I mean, that's how they give photos to each other, videos, and just everything, recipes, etc., etc. Any other questions? I want to get to some more questions. You, sir, right there.
Hi, I'm Brad Grossman. Nice to meet you, or nice to be here at the conference. And
I like nice to meet you.
Going back to the money question, this is more of a philosophical thing because I know a lot of people who have become very successful because of their heart and their goals, and it's more of an emotional thing than a drive to, make a lot of money. So the question I have is, does that switch or that philosophy reverse itself as you make more and more money? And why is that?
So I think that there's two types of people. There's always two types. There's two types of people in terms of the way they react to wealth. And I think some of it has to do with your initial motivations. Are you motivated, by simply making money, becoming wealthy, status, prestige? Or is there some, are you trying to change the world in some specific way to solve a specific problem that sort of irks you? Or, you know, maybe it doesn't bother you, but you see the problem in the world and you realize that it ought to be fixed. And so depending on where you start out, I think it affects kind of where you end up. And so I've seen folks who make $1 billion and they say, that's it, I'm done, I'm getting off this merry-go-round, you know, see you guys later, and then I'm going to the beach, or I'm going to help try to Africa to save the world. And then there's the people who see it as a scorecard, and they get trapped in this like endless cycle of self-recrimination. That's a challenging word to say.
It's a great Scrabble word, yeah.
Yeah. So they get trapped in this endless cycle where they don't feel like they're succeeding fast enough, and now suddenly they're comparing themselves only to other billionaires, and they're worried about their position in the Forbes list, and they'll never say it publicly, but you know that's privately. It's actually totally explicit. Like the conversations are about net worth, and the conversations are about, you know, whose dick is bigger than whose. So I think there's just different ways that people react to it, and I mean, personally, I don't really see fault in either way. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with seeing wealth as a scorecard and trying to work your way up that scorecard, as long as you're not hurting people on the way up.
Yeah, but also, like, the bigger your business gets, the more people are involved, right? Because I mean, when you just start out in your house, it's you and your buddy, and you're making a lot of money. That's cool. But now, if you have this giant business, it's thousands of people employed.
Yeah,
it's a little bit more pressure. You don't want to screw up.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to screw up just from the perspective of. You know, you have a lot of people who you're responsible for, and their lives and their families are built around the success of your company. That's a ton of responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tricky balance. Yes, over there, there's a gentleman right there. You're getting 2 microphones, so you can ask a question in stereo if you would like to.
My name is Hamid Abbas, and I'm here from Magazines. It's a software, digital publishing software. Now, my question is this: you had a lot of success with, with the music industry. Now you're taking music, streaming it, especially with your latest product, and you work with them, and they allow you to stream this music for free. Now, think of this from the publishing industry. What can we do, or how can we overcome this problem that we allow to share bits and pieces of content, publishing content, like articles, from various publishers into one platform and sharing it? How can we overcome this? How can we move forward with publishers to understand this, that they should be able to do the same thing? No one would want to pay for the entire magazine. So instead, they would take bits and pieces of content which is valuable to people, take it and share it. How can we do it from our end to overcome the same problem that you have already done?
You know, I actually think that that different mediums should be monetized in different ways. I don't believe there's a one-size-fits-all approach to monetizing media. I think, and the reason for that is that the consumption patterns are completely different. So with film, you don't have a very good experience of film if you own. I mean, you can have a perfectly adequate experience of film if you own one DVD or 2 DVDs or 3. You watch it once or twice and you're sort of done with it. With music, you're listening to the same songs over and over. You're building playlists. You get sick of one playlist or one song, you make another one. You get sick of an artist, you move on. You're constantly exploring. Then you're going back and revisiting your old favorites, and they sound different in a different context, or they're nostalgic. It's a whole different consumption pattern. And if you don't have a few thousand songs in your collection today, you're probably not getting the full experience of music. So there's, that's a really distinct difference. The publishing business is not one that I'm particularly close to. I haven't built companies in that world. I'm not sure exactly what the balance is. I think that there's definitely a room for paywalls and premium content, and there's definitely room for ad-supported ad-supported free content. And I think it depends on the publication. I think actually the publishing industry, while it's going through a difficult time, I think they kind of understand what the models are, unlike with the music industry, where for years there's been this baffling question about what should the model be. I think actually the question about how you distribute and sell music is a more difficult question than the question about how do you make money, you know, with words and, you know, selling words on a screen and so forth.
Thanks for really bringing the interview down, sir. It looks like you
Yeah,
stressed it
sorry.
out. Any more questions that aren't a party pooper? Hey, we have one here. This one's from Twitter. Can Sean talk about Facebook's new design-oriented acquisitions?
Design-oriented acquisitions, like the Facebook buying companies that have great design teams and things like that?
I guess.
I guess. Well,
I don't know. I didn't write that tweet.
Twitter, tell us what you mean.
What does that design-oriented acquisitions? I guess Farmville, I guess?
No, I don't know what they're talking about. But anyway, I think design is really important. I'm a designer,
Like
go
the
Facebook.
new layout? What are they talking about for
No,
layman?
I think they're talking about buying companies for their design talent in order to. I mean, these are like hardcore Facebook.
I see what you're saying.
This is inside baseball right here.
I see what you're saying. So to take Facebook to the next level, like people have different design ideas. They go, you should change the design by doing this. We're good at this.
Right, and so we hire people who are like, no, that doesn't really make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, it should really be like this.
So can you talk about new design-oriented acquisitions?
I actually don't know what they are because I don't track it that closely, but I have in the past had conversations with Mark where I've said, you know, you guys should really be buying more companies and acquiring more talent, and I think, you know, designers are a key part of that equation. So all I can say about it is if they've been making good design-oriented acquisitions, then good for them, and that's the right strategy.
Is Mark, a weird question, what's his go-to karaoke song?
Oh, it has to be Journey.
Don't Stop Believing?
Of course.
Awesome. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am, over there.
Hi, Liz Porter. Based on your background as a non-hacker and your interest in the experience and understanding experiences, have you thought about or have you been asked to look at from the cybersecurity aspects of the network, since we're talking about networks?
Well,
The question, I think it's for me. The question's for me.
Go for it.
I have been asked a few times, and I've said no very loudly. Capital letters, enter send.
He can't divulge his secrets.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Now, what was you saying? Have you ever been asked if you've done...
Funnily enough, I don't know why I thought this was a good idea at the time, but when I was 16 years old, after I'd been raided by the FBI, I needed work. So I decided to start a computer security firm. It made perfect sense to me at the time. And I had clients, which is even scarier. They were hiring a 16-year-old convicted felon I wasn't actually convicted, because when you're a kid, they put you through this whole other thing, which leads to, anyway, they slap on the wrist and they take your computer away and they call it a day. But I started a computer security firm, and we actually, it was with Sean Fanning, and we had like a couple clients.
So basically, if you sign with your firm, you will never get hacked.
Yes, exactly.
But if you don't sign
we're not
with your
actually
firm,
going
I'm
to
gonna
protect
hack the
you,
crap
but
out of you?
we're not going to protect you. We're just going to tell our protection racket not to screw with you.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know who did that? Weirdly enough, Evel Knievel did that. That's kind of how he got his name.
And the mob.
Yeah, and the mob as well, yeah. But I go right back to Evel Knievel. But he had a thing where it's like it was local town. He's like, we'll be security for your house. And whatever business didn't sign with Evel Knievel, they threw a brick through his window and broke into this hardware store and trashed the place.
That's called a protection racket. It's a common mafia product.
Yeah, so you tried that, and then you wouldn't try it again, would you?
What's that?
You wouldn't try the cyber thing again, would you? No. Okay. Sorry, hold on a second. Yep. It's Screech from Saved by the Bell. He has to call you back.
I need to talk to
No,
I need to talk to Mr. Belden. Mr. Belden.
I'll tell him. He heard you.
Okay.
We're out of time. I just want to thank you guys for listening to us. I want to thank Sean Parker for being candid and funny and interesting. And we're excited to see what's going to happen with Spotify. This is very cool I got to talk to you. And thank you all for listening.